Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are diving into a truly fascinating idea about the very nature of existence and art. Have you ever actually stopped to wonder why things look the way they do? Like why a sunset is so breathtaking, or why a masterfully painted canvas just completely draws you in? Well, today we're taking a structured, logical look at a pretty abstract yet mind-blowing concept: the idea that beauty itself has a voice and a deep-seated desire to be witnessed. We're going to break down some incredibly rich philosophical and theological ideas to make these vast concepts crystal clear. So, let's jump right in, shall we?
It all starts with a classic, Socratic question. Does an artist create their work solely for themselves, or do they actually want others to see it? Picture a brilliant painter who spends years perfecting an absolute masterpiece. They're mixing the exact right pigments, capturing the perfect light. But if they take that painting and lock it in a dark basement where literally no human eye will ever see it, is that artistic process really complete? Sure, we often romanticize the solitary artist creating purely for the sake of creation, but the source text we're analyzing today suggests something quite different. It proposes that the very act of creating something magnificent carries with it an inherent, inescapable desire for that creation to be witnessed. Deep down, the artist fundamentally craves an audience to share in that perfection.
And that brings us to an even grander question. Does true beauty settle for merely existing, or does it actively demand to be noticed? This basically takes our solitary artist metaphor and applies it to the concept of beauty itself. We're moving from human action to a fundamental law of reality. The text asks us to really think about whether beauty is just a passive trait, something that just sits there, inertly existing in a vacuum. Or, on the flip side, does true beauty possess a kind of conscious gravity? Does it actively demand a witness? Well, according to the framework we're exploring, beauty is not passive at all. It has an active, driving nature. It absolutely refuses to simply exist in the dark. It yearns for the light of attention.
To really grasp how this source material tackles this immense idea, we need to look at a framework known as the fourth truth. What's super interesting here is that this isn't just some casual observation. It's laid out as a structural framework for existence itself. Impartially speaking, this concept is used in classical theology to explain a really tough question. Why would a perfect, entirely self-sufficient creator ever bother to create a universe at all? If a supreme being is completely perfect in isolation, what's the spark that actually initiates creation? The fourth truth gives us the mechanism for that spark. It presents a model where creation is just the inevitable result of perfection wanting to become manifest.
The text actually articulates this beautifully. It states, "Such supreme, peerless, hidden beauty wishes to see its own perfection in a mirror, both in its own reflection and in the gaze of those who look upon it with admiration." Every single word here carries a lot of weight. Notice the phrasing, supreme, peerless, hidden. This beauty is absolute, but crucially, it is hidden away. And because it's so beautiful, it possesses an active wish. It desires a mirror. But, and this is key, it doesn't just want a simple, flat reflection. It desires a dual reflection. It wants to see itself, absolutely, but equally, it wants to experience its own perfection through the admiring gaze of another.
So the crucial takeaway here is this duality. The text outlines two distinct paths of reflection, which really represent two sides of the exact same philosophical coin. On one side, we have what's called direct reflection. The source describes this as seeing its beauty directly in mirrors of different colors. You can basically think of this as the physical universe, the diverse, multifaceted physical reality that directly reflects the attributes of its source. But then, on the other side, we have the admired reflection. This is seeing beauty through the eyes of appreciative, admiring viewers. This isn't just physical light bouncing off a surface. This is an experiential reflection bouncing off a consciousness. One is a mirror of existence, and the other is a mirror of appreciation. And in this framework, both are absolutely required to satisfy beauty's desire to be known.
To ground this heavy theological concept, the text connects it to general art philosophy in a really clever way. It argues that an artwork is essentially incomplete without an observer. Let's step away from theology for just a second and think about the Mona Lisa. Before it became this globally recognized icon, it actually spent years gathering dust in a French royal bathing suite, completely unappreciated by the broader world. A masterpiece, unobserved, is quite literally just dried pigment on wood. A book unread is just paper and ink. A symphony unheard is just displaced air. An artwork seemingly doesn't fully exist in its intended, meaningful state until it has an audience to interpret, feel, and appreciate it. The observer is the final, necessary ingredient. The source text uses this highly relatable concept to explain the mechanics of the entire cosmos.
Okay, let's trace the logic flowing through this. First, beauty, in its essence, exists completely within itself. It isn't lacking anything. It's already completely perfect. Yet, it inherently seeks an external observer's appreciation. Now, this isn't a contradiction. Rather, the text suggests it's a characteristic of true perfection to naturally overflow. This desire creates a fundamental need for reflection, and ultimately, the universe itself provides those necessary mirrors. The entirety of existence, according to this synthesis, is constructed specifically to fulfill this exact role. The universe is essentially the grand gallery, built solely so the artwork can be observed.
Now, we've been throwing the word mirror around a lot, so let's clearly define what the source text actually means by this. It is definitely not talking about polished glass or silver. These mirrors are the countless eyes and consciousnesses scattered throughout existence. They serve to observe, reflect, and appreciate beauty. And honestly, this is a staggering realization. In this framework, you, me, and every sentient, conscious being are the mirrors. Our ability to perceive, to feel awe, to look at a mountain range and say, wow, that is beautiful, is the very function we were designed for. Human consciousness is the ultimate mirror required by supreme beauty.
This brings us to a really delicate cosmic tension, the balance of the hidden and the manifest. Think about it. If supreme beauty is entirely hidden, it just remains a secret, unappreciated treasure. But if it were entirely overwhelmingly manifest all at once, it might just be way too immense for the mirrors, for us, to even comprehend or bear. So reality has to exist in this exquisite, careful balance. Beauty reveals itself just enough to be recognized and admired by the mirrors of the universe, but it remains veiled enough to preserve its supreme, peerless nature. The entire dynamic of creation, observation, and appreciation is this continuous, beautiful dance between what is concealed from us and what is revealed to us.
To anchor this whole concept, the source text provides a specific theological reference from the Quran, Surah Al-Hadid, verse 3. It reads, "He is the first and the last, the evident and the immanent," which translates to the hidden. Impartially looking at this text, we can see how perfectly it encapsulates the ultimate theological duality we've been breaking down today. The Creator is described simultaneously as the evident, meaning that which is manifest, visible, and reflected in the mirrors of the universe, and the immanent or hidden, the supreme, peerless essence that sits behind that reflection. It beautifully mirrors the philosophical point that the absolute must be both a hidden treasure and a manifest reality at the exact same time.
I want to conclude our explainer today by bringing this vast cosmic philosophy right back down to a deeply human, relatable experience. Have you ever seen a beautiful landscape completely alone, maybe a stunning sunset or a quiet, snow-covered forest, and thought to yourself, man, if only someone else were here to see this? Why do we feel that? Well, according to the text we've explored today, that fleeting feeling you have isn't just human loneliness. It's actually you experiencing the very same fundamental urge of the universe. It is the inherent nature of beauty demanding a witness. You recognize the beauty, and instantly, instinctively, you realize that for that beauty to be truly complete, it needs to be shared, reflected, and admired by another. It's a pretty profound thought to carry with you the next time you encounter something truly beautiful. Thank you so much for joining me today, and keep looking for those reflections.